Shalom, shalom, greetings. Today is the 25th of June, 2024, the 19th of Sivan, 5784. I would like to briefly speak on the Torah portion of this week, Parshat, Shelach. What stands out to me most notably in this Torah portion, and of course that changes every time we are speaking of the living Torah, the living word that we read in cycles constantly throughout the years over and over and over, and always glean deeper and deeper meanings every time. Like the river, which proverbially one can never step into twice, the Torah in which we immerse ourselves is never the same, even reading the same passage. So as I was reading this week's portion, just as the daily bread that we request of our Father, what stood out to me this time was the significance of the juxtaposition between the evil report of the spies that went to scout the land of Canaan, this issue of Lashon Hara, the evil tongue, juxtaposed with the temple sacrifices, and more importantly, the commandment to wear tzitzit, to guard oneself, one's soul from the evil of the eyes. Here we see two great sins: the cursing of ourselves through what we speak, and the cursing or defiling of ourselves through what we see. It's interesting that both the eyes and the mouth consume. We consume not only food which we eat, we consume that which we watch, which we observe, which we, with our eyes, lust after and covet. So here we see the evil tongue and essentially the evil eye, covetousness. And what more is covetousness than lust? So in Bamidbar, this portion traverses from Bamidbar 13 through 15, essentially. However, in this portion, as I spoke of, there is a wide range of topics, even in its brevity, including the illustration of the libations of the temple and the separation of challah. Nowadays, in the absence of the temple, the separation of challah is a sacred, most sacred mitzvah of women. This is something I look forward to uncovering more in Matriarchs of the Covenant course. However, I'll just briefly say there is such beauty in the mitzvah of separating challah as one of the three primary mitzvot of women, including the lighting of the Shabbat candles, the separation of challah, and the observation of nidah. So I'll read briefly from my trusty Siddur. It is so beautiful to really take in the significance of separating challah, which is to be considered like a sacrifice, like a temple sacrifice that was offered on the altar. So whereas the Kohanim offered sacrifices in their extreme purity, it is interesting that the woman, who many would like to think is unclean, exemplifies that purity in that the simple separation of challah from the dough with which she makes the bread for the Shabbat table for her family every Friday that separation of that portion is the same as the offerings on the altar, in the temple, in the tent of meetings, by the Kohanim. In the Siddur, the prayer that we say upon separating challah, the portion of challah from dough, says, just as originally the challah was given to the Kohen, and it was an atonement for sins, so too this should be an atonement for my sins. Then I shall be as if I were born afresh, free from sin and iniquity, and I will be able to fulfill the commandment of the holy Shabbat and the festivals with my husband and our children and be sustained through the sanctity of these days. Isn't that beautiful? That something seemingly simple and routine as separating a tiny portion of dough from the bread that one's family will eat at the Shabbat table, sanctifying the Shabbat, setting it apart, making it sacred and holy, an island in time, they say. The bread of life, which is Torah, our daily bread. The bread broken in fellowship, just as Torah itself is broken, as the book indeed is broken open to read, just as the scrolls are open to read, so too was the body of Mashiach broken and opened for us to discern the whole body of Torah as his body. As he said, I did not come to undo the law, but to fulfill it. Thus, the whole body and himself, Mashiach, being the living Torah, our daily bread. Such beautiful layers. I didn't even plan to say all that, by the way. However, isn't it beautiful that women are sanctified and elevated in the seemingly simple act of separating challah, lighting the Shabbat candles, and observing Nidah. Speaking of Nidah, also in this Torah portion, it is important that this is the Torah portion in which the commandment to make tzitzit was given. And in the daily Shema reading that we recite daily, we remember this commandment, that we may observe it, that it may be a reminder to us that tzitzit, as Rabbi Chaim Richmond says, is healing to the eyes. Indeed, tzitzit is to protect us from the lusts of our eyes, that we may stay focused on the law, on Torah, on the mitzvot. And mitzvot are more than just commandments that we are ordered to do by some oppressive authoritarian figure and obey blindly. The mitzvot, so much more than that, are deeds and intentions by which we draw closer to our Creator, and indeed by which we are transformed to become more and more as our Creator. The tzitzit heals our eyes indeed, as it protects us from cursing ourselves with our own lustful and covetous gazes, that we stay focused on that which is encompassing of the divine attributes of our Creator, that we may embody those attributes ourselves. One of the most important things that tzitzit guards us from is sexual immorality. Thus, in the wearing of tzitzit, the children of Israel are constantly reminded of their modesty, men and women. The sexual immorality, or the sin of wasting seed, zera levatala, is always juxtaposed in Torah with idolatry, Why? Because it is idolatry. The Chazal, the sages, teach, most especially and significantly in the Mishnah of Nida and in the Shulchan Aruch, that the whole of Torah is broken when sexual sin or immodesty overcomes one. It is the worst sin. And inversely, the whole of Torah is upheld and fulfilled when one repents of and resists sexual immorality. Because immodesty equates with nothing but arrogance. And what is arrogance but narcissistic self-idolatry? The idea that you take hold, literally, of your own body as if it were your own and not a vessel for the Creator to work His glory. That you would indeed, through your lustful covetousness, the lustful gaze of your eyes, seek to take hold of someone else's body as if it were your own, in ways unbecoming, in ways depraved, as the depravity only of those who worship lifeless idols and make of themselves gods, with disregard for the delicacy of human life and the relationship and synergy between us all as humanity and all of creation, and without respect for the order that Torah brings to the world, and the Torah with which and for which the world was created. This sin of not guarding the eyes in this portion is also linked to the sin of not guarding your tongue, as Lashon Hara in the giving of the evil report, and indeed the hearing of the evil report by the spies who went into the land of Canaan, for reconnaissance. The speaking of that Lashon Hara, that evil report, and the hearing of it caused us to curse ourselves. And just as in the narrative of Balak and Balaam, the children of Israel cannot be cursed lest we curse ourselves. And how do we curse ourselves most prodigiously, prolifically, and poignantly, and potently? But through the sin of the evil tongue and the lustful covetousness of the evil eyes, the evil of our eyes. Rabbi Alana Nava often speaks of the sin of Lashon Hara as not being evil spoken as a lie. What is most poignant about Lashon Hara is that it is the truth. But when the truth is spoken to inculcate fear or anger, or to bring shame upon someone, or to induce anxiety, or create dissension or disturbance, that is a grave sin. Thus, the seed of fear that was planted in the people by hearing the evil report caused us to curse ourselves and literally wish to die, and wish even to go back to turn back to, like Lot's wife, that from which we were delivered. What greater curse to even seek, Yah forbid, to even seek to return from that which one was miraculously delivered from with a mighty hand. And even that looking back is again akin to the lust of the eyes that we must guard with tzitzit. I'm happy to share as Hashem inspires. Baruch Hashem Hagadol, and Shalom Shalom.